So it looks like James Gunn will be directing the new DCEU, being an amazing director who will be behind some very anticipated films like Flashpoint, Superman Legacy, and Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. I have a lot of faith in James Gunn. I feel that he's an amazing director and writer who does know his stuff about comics and can translate that very well into cinema. A lot of people were relieved that it'd be James Gunn since it seems like Zack Snyder is apparently rather infamous for ruining characters, like how he made Batman willing to kill in Batman v Superman, and how he ruined Superman by making him into Batman. Now, yeah, he definitely should not have made Batman that way. I completely agree. But Zack Snyder ruining Superman and making Superman into Batman? I just do not believe that. Zack Snyder was really the director. The ones behind the screenplay was mainly David S. Goyer and Christopher Nolan. They're the ones behind the story, but a director can influence that story heavily. A director handles the take of the story, the atmosphere, the mood, and even what goes on in the story. As originally, General Zod wasn't planned to be killed by Superman. Man of Steel was criticized for a couple of things, mainly about Superman. How Superman isn't a pure good Boy Scout, how he's angry and emotionless and violent, and the billions of dollars worth of collateral damage, along with the seemingly countless amounts of people killed during the Black Zero event. So people decided that Superman's character in Zack Snyder's DCEU will basically be an anti-hero who will kill if he wants to, and how apparently Zack made him into Batman. I love Man of Steel with all my heart. I love the world building, the extra amounts of detail in the last remnants of Krypton, the little details like how Clark's pod was made from a different element that wasn't found on a periodic table, as it really showed how alien Clark really is. Not to mention the absolutely insane fight scenes in the movie. You can judge Zack Snyder for his directing, but one thing he is amazing at directing is one hell of a fight scene. They really highlight how powerful the Kryptonians are, and I plan on making a separate video just talking about Man of Steel and talking about why I love it so much after yet another watch of it. There are, of course, flaws in it. Jonathan Kent should not have died at all, and if he was going to, it should have been something like a heart attack. Being straight up, that tornado death was some bullshit. He wasn't even swept away instantly. Clark at that point was probably able to move fast enough to where the other people wouldn't have been able to see him. He could have easily just held his dad and acted as a shield. If anyone questioned it, they could have just chalked it up to just other people seeing things in a life or death situation. There was also the non-usage of characters like Nam-Ek. There's a reason why he's basically 8 goddamn feet tall. It's because in the comics he's half Kryptonian and half Rondor, those gigantic animals you saw at the beginning of the film. Also the fact that biologically he can't feel empathy. He was fucking crazy in MOS, but he should have been used more. He probably would have been a better vessel to create Doomsday, but I understand why Zod was used as Nam was sent to the Phantom Zone. There was also how dumb some of the characters were. Like, if a massive alien machine is only a couple hundred meters away from me, I'm leaving. I'm not gonna wait for it to start blasting and then leave. I, of course, have zero complaints about Faora though. And every single thing about General Zod, from his character to his actor Michael Shannon, was perfect for me. A big part, well, the special part about Clark Kent is who he is. His altruism, his heroism, his pure good morality, his indomitable spirit, and his humanity despite the fact that he's an alien. Clark Kent in Man of Steel and the other DCEU movies represent this. How he always remembers to be gentle because of his dad, his self-sacrifice even for things at a young age like when he saved the school bus and all the kids from drowning. How even at a grown age, when he got a drink poured on him for defending the waitress, he didn't hit the guy back even after he assaulted him several times. Yeah, he completely destroyed the guy's truck, but if he had super strength, you do the exact same thing. His character that's so loved in the comics, it is represented in the movies. The Superman that will talk to kids after rescuing someone is there. The Superman who will risk his life to protect anyone is there. The Clark Kent who will defend a random stranger. The Clark Kent who loves his mom and dad. The Clark Kent who is new to the Daily Planet and is even a bit nervous is there. The Superman who's very charming, the symbol of hope, was there. But for some reason people imagine Zack's Superman as the angry Superman who will just punch things. I remember seeing people complaining about how Superman lasered off Steppenwolf's horn and punched him, and there were people complaining about how Superman is so cruel and violent, that Zack made a very angry and violent Superman when that's not the case. Did you want him to let him get back up? The alien conqueror who's wiped out entire planets and civilizations? I would have been telling him to keep laying into him, and he was going pretty damn easy on him too. After the fight, he was his optimistic self, laughing with the other League members, being kind to them, having a fun race with Barry, being cordial and even friendly with Bruce after the whole thing. There was also when his mother Martha was captured by Lex. The scene where he snapped and looked like he was about to kill him. People were complaining about it, saying that Zack made him into an angry person who's close to lasering someone. I mean, be completely real. That's his mother. He'd lose his mind at that, almost everyone would. Even a very experienced Superman who was in full control of his emotions would. Here's the thing about Zack Snyder's Superman. He's young. Yeah, in Man of Steel, he's 33 years old. But as Superman, he was so young and still basically is. So inexperienced. He found out so fast about the true scale of everything that he probably didn't even have enough time to process it all. He maybe had like 2 days to think of all of it, and the first day he just found out more about his alien side. The next day he had to save the world. He knew he was an alien his whole life, about his powers, how he isn't human, how he needs to control himself to prevent himself from hurting or even killing other people. But he didn't know why he was sent to Earth, knew nothing about Krypton, didn't even know the name of his species or his planet, didn't know about how his biology worked. Nothing basically. And in such a short time, he found out he's basically the last member of a very advanced species of aliens, with rogue members wanting to wipe out the humans he loves. Imagine talking to the spirit of your dead dad, finding out your whole history, how you basically hold all of Krypton in your DNA, and that you have to stop the world from being terraformed, fight another alien who was your dad's enemy, and have the responsibility of the entire world on your shoulders. Even if he could physically do it, he was basically all alone. Yeah, he had the support of other people, he had the help from the military, but no one could truly relate to him. He did use his powers to rescue people his whole life, but he didn't have the experience of being a proper superhero. He didn't have the experience of basically being a professional at this, at being completely calm no matter what, knowing exactly what to do. Yeah, he was flawed, but that's also what I love about this Superman, is that he was flawed. He needed practice and experience. But when did he have to use those powers to fight off other people who could do the same as him? That was the first time in his entire life that he had to. He had essentially entered a new world again. Yet people want to complain about how he's dumb, he's too impulsive or irrational or whatever, too inexperienced. Well, yeah, of course he is. This wasn't a young Superman dealing with parasites, or Livewire or Metallo, or even regular bank robbers. He was dealing with General Zod in his first time being a superhero. He had to get the hang of it and everything during the events of Man of Steel. There is, of course, the Black Zero event. People define this moment as the worst moment for him, thinking his character negatively because of this event. The city's wiped out, the countless amounts of death and destruction and injuries, how Superman, Zod, Faora, and Nam destroyed so many things, and how Superman is a bad-written character for this. How, apparently, Zack characterized him as someone who doesn't care about casualties and collateral. Let's look at what happened. Superman had to fight other Kryptonians in populated areas. There was also the military who got involved as well. Millions to billions of dollars in collateral damage. He had to fight off two other aliens who basically don't have empathy, morality, no concern for life, and they have killing intent. The lack of morality was even an advantage for them. One of them biologically couldn't even feel empathy. They didn't care about the environment or the people. Superman had to stop them physically while making sure no one got hurt. But it's pretty damn hard to do that considering everything going on. The world engines used a gravity beam to increase the mass throughout the Earth until they met. These were world-altering weapons. They were designed for that. These weren't just bombs or tanks or missiles or even nuclear weapons. These were just two pieces of machinery designed to manipulate everything about an entire planet, to terraform it into another one, another Krypton, and these two weapons were readily available for the Kryptonians. Having one in the city and another on the opposite side of the world, this level of destruction is obviously bound to happen. There was also the defense mechanisms in place, the gravity manipulation not allowing missiles to hit it, and there was also the machine literally fighting back like when it was restraining Superman from doing anything. Superman had to physically overcome the beam itself to destroy the world engine, which obviously had to be pretty durable itself. And there were the humans who had to get through the other Kryptonians and find a way to send it and them all back to the Phantom Zone. all that was left was Superman and Zod. I think the biggest critique of this version of Superman was how he caused so much collateral damage. Think of it this way. Two of the strongest creatures on Earth are about to fight. One, who is very inexperienced, has to restrain himself to protect the civilians, at least the ones that were left. Another is fighting with pure killing intent, has the same level of power as the other, and has no concern for human life whatsoever. What do you think will happen when they are fighting in a city, near endless amounts of destruction? People ask, why didn't Superman try to fight the other Kryptonians away? Well, it'd be pretty hard trying to do that since he wouldn't be able to restrain them so easily, and they would know that he'd be trying to keep the people safe. They either wouldn't allow him to fly them somewhere else, or they'd go right back to the city. There was basically nothing Clark could do besides fight them off and do whatever he could to keep the casualties as low as possible. Sure, he was a bit ignorant to the buildings around him, but there was General Zod right in front of him. It would have been best to focus on him first. Clark needing to kill General Zod was a very important scene. I've seen many people complain about this, saying that Superman's a killer now, how he has a low morality. Zack Snyder ruined him because he didn't understand Superman's code. Clark obviously didn't want to kill Zod. He had just taken the life of basically the last other member of his practically extinct species. He didn't want to resort to take another life. The lives lost in the Black Zero event were completely out of his control, and when it was in his control, he barely had any because of the other Kryptonians. Killing Zod was the last resort in this situation. You can't just lock him up. Clark couldn't have just sent him back to the Phantom Zone. In that incredibly dire situation, where he had to think fast, he did what he had to do. He did not become Batman in this scene. He was never Batman. Zack Snyder did not turn Superman into Batman. He did not make Superman dark. He did not make Superman a violent, morally gray character, and he certainly did not make Superman an anti-hero. The events of Man of Steel did not make Superman become anything negative. Zack's vision for him is not a rage-filled alien that a lot of people seem to believe in. If anything, Zack characterized Superman pretty damn good. I think basically everything a director should do when making an adaptation for Superman, Zack Snyder did it. He did not ruin Superman. This version of him, I believe, is a proper representation and characterization for the Man of Steel. You have to consider everything that happened in the film. In Batman vs. Superman, he wasn't immediately loved by everyone. He had many, many critics, and the public perception of him was actually incredibly realistic. There would have been a lot of people doubting his intentions. A lot of people don't like the religious subtext for Henry Cavill's Superman, how he's compared to religious figures like Jesus Christ, gods, and angels. I, for one, do like it a bit, mainly because it's just cool to me. And if Superman did exist, people comparing him to religious and mythological figures would happen. Obviously, he isn't Jesus. He's more like Moses. But people would compare him to him. People would pray to him. The desperate would look at him as something close to a second coming of Christ. The debate about his existence in Batman v Superman, people doubting his good intentions, scientists and the religious debating on who he is as a person, is genuinely what would happen if something like Superman existed. Man of Steel is a great film with great writing and directing. I plan on making a video about my love for this film because I fucking love Man of Steel. I love basically everything about it. Now yes, he obviously isn't in just Man of Steel. He was of course in Batman v Superman and the Justice League, but Man of Steel is mainly where people get this idea of Zack's apparent mischaracterization for him. He was also a good character in those films as well. I think Zack Snyder is a pretty good director. Sure, he did make a big no-no when he made Batman kill people, but I don't believe that affects his Superman. I could go on and on about this. If you think Zack Snyder wasn't a good director, that's your belief and it's fine. But saying that he ruined Superman, that Man of Steel Superman is dark and edgy, this and that, I just don't think it's true. The DCEU definitely had some big ups and some big downs, but Man of Steel, Superman's character, I just don't believe that he's part of the big downs of the DCEU. I am very, very excited for Superman Legacy. It is unfortunate that Henry Cavill won't play Superman. I think he was an amazing Superman. There are unconfirmed things like how old Legacy Superman will be, so they'd have to get a younger actor or something. But I have a lot of faith in James Gunn, and I hope more people can give Henry Cavill's Superman more of a chance. Sure, in the past couple of years, more and more people like him, but I hope it's much more in the future. I'm not trying to come off as a meat writer or a glazer or something. I genuinely believe that Cavill's Superman is a good character, and I just don't believe that Zack ruined him like so many people say he did. Thanks for watching. Tell me what you think in the comments. I got the links to my socials in the description. Be kind to yourselves and each other. Thanks for watching.